Welcome everybody to the Synapse Philosophy Group. I'm Haig John, your host. We've got Alan, Dr. Hobbs, Barry Hobbs, Steve Shargell, Carol, and Rob Crystal. And I was just saying happy birthday to Carol Crystal. Happy birthday. She had a birthday coming up. She's speaking at New Beginnings. Is that next weekend, right? You're muted right now, okay?
You're muted, Carol.
So we're going to start. We're on D. Palmer's 1914 book, and it is a zinger. I tell you, I love reading it. Okay, now I just had a crown put on my tooth, and I've been talking all day, and my face is throbbing. Okay, it's a real joy. Thank you, God, for dentists. I love you. And as a matter of fact, I did trade with a good buddy of mine who did this work on a Saturday, and he is an amazing dentist, and I love him. But your teeth hurt, your whole body hurts, right? It's the subluxation of the face. So this is where I am today. So I'm going to do a little reading, and then I'll pass it around. Dr. Barry, if you don't mind, and Dr. Allen, if you don't mind, if I switch off with you guys, do some reading.
Always ready to read.
Excelente. Okay. Now we left off on, what was it, page 7. And we left off at, what is it, morally chiropractors are duty bound? Is that right?
Yep.
I had it marked as I fully agree, but we can skip down to morally.
Wait a second. You're right. There's my other mark. I've got my book all marked up. I hate marking, 50-plus-year-old books, but and I mean this is a reproduction from 50-plus years ago, but I did make a mark. You're exactly right. I'm going to read just from that point on. Okay. I fully agree with Dr. Carlton to say or think that the science, the art, or the philosophy of chiropractic, or that chiropractic, the three combined, has a religion, is really absurd and ridiculous. So he's saying this isn't a religion. Just before that, I'll just read it. It's just a single sentence. F.W. Carlton, D.C. writes, the religion of chiropractic is absurd. And this is where Dee Dee's saying, I agree with you. We're not talking about a religion. We're protecting the rights for us to serve people, really. Okay? So I'm going to start off there. Anybody have any input from this point on?
Well, this whole section, in which we sometimes drift in and out of, the thought is he's creating a segregation between religion and moral responsibility. There's a difference between those two things. And so here he's talking about religion, and we've talked about what the moral responsibility of a chiropractor is. And it's not a religious responsibility, it's a moral responsibility. Right. And although there's some similarities, they're not the same thing.
But he's saying this can be your religious responsibility. If it is not what you feel in your religious being, make it your moral responsibility, is what he says before that. Because we're serving God as we're serving this person. If that's not what you believe in, make it your moral responsibility. That's what he said previously to this. Okay? Absolutely. Barry, you want to go ahead with the next paragraph?
Absolutely. Let's see here. He also says, all religions are more or less based upon superstition. There is nothing superstitious about chiropractic. He is right. All methods of treating diseases, as well as all forms of religion, are based upon superstition. Chiropractic, as a science, as an art, and the philosophy thereof, also the moral and religious duty of chiropractors, are free of superstition. They are based upon the knowledge of principles and facts.
Let's stop there a moment. Okay. So, he's saying there's nothing esoteric, right? Is that what he's saying? We're dealing with principles and facts. What do you guys feel?
Give me an example of a fact.
A vertebra out of place affects the function of the nervous system. If it's affecting a nerve, then it is subluxated. How about
So
that?
what's unique here is he's very he's very solid in what he's stating because of this. It's all three. And he was saying all three components makes it whatever you want to call it. Whereas just the philosophy alone could be compared to religion. Whereas the science is factual, like the vertebrae, for example. So here he's saying all three are combined are unique.
Now, I do want to go back and realize those he also says is in quotes, and he's talking about F.W. Carlton. He also says, all religions are based more or less upon superstition. There is nothing superstitious about chiropractic. And he's agreeing with Carlton in that, but he's quoting him in that. That's not D.D. Palmer. I just realized that myself, actually. And he said he is right. Thank you for that, too. Alan, you want to read the next section?
Sure. There is a moral and religious science of chiropractic, the moral and religious philosophy of chiropractic, the moral and religious responsibility attached to the practice of chiropractic, the moral and religious liberty granted to chiropractors by the Constitution of the United States, also the moral theology of chiropractic, known in the California Medical Act as religion.
Let's do this next one, too.
Morally, yeah, I have that one, the next sentence highlighted, actually.
Me too.
Morally, chiropractors are duty-bound to help humanity physically. Religiously, they are required to render spiritual service toward God, the universal intelligence, by relieving mankind of their fetters, adjusting the tension frame of the nervous system, the physical lines of communication to and from the spirit. By so doing, they greatly aid intellectual attainment and progress toward perfection through the untrammeled mental reception of intelligent expressions of individual spirits. By correcting the skeletal frame, the spirit is permitted to assume normal control, produce, and produce normal expression.
You know, that's one of the, you don't like that one, Barry?
Oh, I love it. Drop
I
the
love
mic,
it.
Dee.
I mean,
Wow.
that should
Yes.
be at the beginning when you get to chiropractic school, they hand you a slip of paper. Here you go. This should be the very first thing you read, right?
You finish
Hello.
that paragraph and you go, can I get an amen?
And again,
Yes,
amen, hallelujah.
and I wanted to say that, but it would have sounded superstitious. And Alan did a tremendous job going through that. And it really unites, like, just listen to this. And as us as humans, we experience what he's saying here. However, he's also telling us as a profession, you have to think this is the wild, wild west 1900s. I love how he pulls out certain things to attach to certain groups, such as California used the Religious Act, whereas the Constitution of the United States is brilliant because at the beginning, we were fighting for our rights to practice as equal citizens, not just as medicine, but as a Constitution of the United States, as a group, we have a right to govern ourselves. And so we forget about this, but the early pioneers used the Constitution. The classic chiropractic pioneers offices that I went to used to have the Constitution books laying around, and I'd ask them and they would say, these were original rights that my grandfather or my great-grandfather fought for. And Dee Dee's saying this. This is great. Great job, Alan. Great paragraph, Dee Dee. Amen, Dee Dee. Thank you.
You know, it touched on something so important because he mentions, different states and their constitutions through this. And, it is such an important thing because we're really talking about our rights to freedom of speech, freedom of service, of, what we deem is right for ourselves, and a lot of pressure from the other groups to follow along with them. But we have these rights to serve. And really, the right to be governed by groups and have licensed by groups that are chiropractic, that are elected by us. Right now, they're not elected by us in any way, and we have no say in them. So we have, we are, I don't know, not living up to this level right now in this profession. And the men and women that went to jail not because they were practicing medicine without a license. That's what they're charged for. But they would refuse to be licensed by medical boards or take medical exams to be licensed. That's the big difference, and that's not what they're teaching in school. So, we have...
That's not what the boards are testing anymore either. They're testing all the medical stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They are a medical board. I've gotten in wars with them myself personally, and I'm telling you, we have dropped the ball. We did not do them service. It's time to pick up the ball again and run. And today is the day, and every day past it. All right. Anybody have any more insights on this?
Well, I don't want to miss that second paragraph. You glommed on all the institution about the Constitution, et cetera. But that other paragraph that we read is also significant, that our duty bound to help humanity physically, religiously, requires spiritual service, that by doing what we do, by so doing, we greatly aid intellectual attainment and progress toward perfection through the untrammeled mental reception of intelligent expressions of individual spirits. That by releasing the interference, we allow people to progress and become better and advance humankind and spirit, and on a physical and spiritual level.
You serve God by serving his people, is what he just said. They were required to render spiritual service toward God, the universal intelligence, by relieving mankind of their fetters.
He's not just servicing them, he's connecting them. He's connecting them as well, and they are moving forward and onward to perfection.
The system, the physical lines of communication to and from the spirit. I mean, amazing. He's laying it down. I can almost see him pounding his fist. You gotta serve the people, beard and all flying around, man. I want to do it. I need to grow beards like you guys so I can be a little more like Dee Dee. I keep saying it. It just won't come in.
By correcting the skeletal frame, the spirit is permitted to assume normal control and produce normal expression, which leads to, as he said above, perfection through untrammeled mental reception, intelligent expression of individual spirits.
Yeah. Thank
Intelligent expression. Intelligent expression. This is beautiful.
Beautiful. By correcting the skeletal frame, the spirit is permitted to assume normal control and produce normal expression.
And what we just talked about is, unless we miss it, is the triune. It's the spirit, the force we put in allows a reconnection of spirit and matter.
That's it.
Intelligence, force, and matter are the triune.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're getting this in Spanish. I have my translators, and we're putting it in Portuguese. I have that translator. He's just a little more expensive. And, this is why we have to put this in multiple languages, so we can make sure this information goes on through the ages, because a lot of people don't have this book. For a long time, it was very difficult to get it. And I remember I got one for Pasquale. He had an old one, but he said, they don't make these anymore. And I said, well, they're reprinting them, which is good. And so I got a reprint for him. And, this has to get out there. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. Awesome. Anybody else? That's it, Carol. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Our new speaker and our honorary PhD, which is awesome, Carol Crystal. And this is one of my favorite paragraphs, and just because I just feel it and I keep saying it, he's giving us our mission: get out and serve the people. do it for the right reasons. He didn't say anything about, he talked about their fetters, right? Adjusting the tension frame, but relieving mankind, but the purpose being to serve God by caring for his people.
We had, if I could jump in here. So I had a situation happen today, and for those students or doctors that are tuning in that really jumped in to this really deep DD philosophical thinking and thinking this is whatever. Here's the thing. Another chiropractor came in to get adjusted today, and he adjusts to open up joints, make people feel good, get them moving and going. And he knows when he comes to my office, like he hears the words we use: innate intelligence, universal intelligence, turn on the power. And there's a big difference in those populations of patients. However, the big difference is in the person. And if you're one of those chiropractors, or if you're a student and you're being frustrated, or you're one of those chiropractors and you're being frustrated, literally this paragraph right here, our founder, who also developed the profession, literally is laying it down. Like Hag is saying, he is laying it down. And DD was a stocky man and a forceful man. And you could feel this energy, and it really connects to you because this doesn't become a job. You don't wait for 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock to come. You are waiting for the next soul to come walking in your door and hearing them tell you the results they had. This is the spirit. This is the power of doing this work and diving into it, not just the scientific side or the art side, but also the philosophical side. So if you're having challenges or struggles, we implore you to become exalted chiropractors like D.D. Palmer.
That's well said. And contact me, send us some messages, connect on Facebook, Messenger, wherever. And, that's why we do all these things. That's why I do the seminars. Trust me, I don't want to be away from my family. I don't make a lot of money on those things, barely covering expenses. So we can get this word out farther and deeper into our society of chiropractors and the public, because that is what needs to be done, because the education in chiropractic has been held back. And it has been, and there's only a couple of schools that you only get, you get a little bigger portion of the pie. Some of the schools almost wipe out 90% of the chiropractic to begin with, let alone D.D. Palmer's moral and religious duty for our chiropractors. And so I think it's vital. It is absolutely vital that we're doing this. But, if you have questions, connect with us, talk to us, and, can help relieve your fetters.
And just to be clear, for those of you who are listening that are not as philosophically bound, that every time you touch somebody is valuable. Whatever your physical purpose is, if you're loosening up the joints and getting them moving, that's valuable. What you have available to you is much more and a bigger vision than what you have now, if you choose to follow it and look for it. That some of your patients are going to get amazing changes that you go, how did that happen? But you can increase the number of them that get those changes by understanding the bigger value of what's available to you through your hands and when you touch everybody you touch.
Absolutely. And, not saying that you're doing anything bad. Let's not be condemning in any way. You're absolutely right, Alan. And I just want to add to that is that, it's not everybody's, vocabulary to speak in this way, or spiritual background they've had, or religious background. And, most of the time, though, you meet chiropractors and they know there's something deeper that they're doing. It just hasn't quite come out of them yet, or the barriers haven't been broken down to be able to express themselves in these ways. And, I don't pound on the Bible or the Torah or anything else in the office, but we talk about the power of innate intelligence and where that comes from God. And the power it makes the body heals the body. And, this is where it comes from. And that's why we say those terms like that.
I think some of it is fear. They don't want to Some people don't want to, they're concerned that here's a strong word, they're concerned that people will get turned off, or that'll be thought of as too weird or too odd. And I find that, that's you and not them.
Yeah,
if you give them
exactly
a chance,
right.
they're looking for something more too.
And that's programming. That's programming, right?
Yeah.
And slowly, bit by bit, we all change a little bit. Comfort sucks, right? Get out of our comfort zone a little bit. Make it a little bit, jazz it up. All right, who wants to read next?
I'm good to go on if you like.
Let's rock it.
The importance of bone pressure on nerves as a disease producer, violation of public or divine law, the result of morbid conditions, is receiving attention by physicians. The Los Angeles Times on May 25, 1911, gives a case of kleptomania, wherein the knife was used to remove bone pressure on nerves, which were supposed to cause, quote, criminal propensities, unquote. The, quote, pretty 22-year-old woman, an uncontrolled kleptomaniac, had served 1 year in prison for shoplifting, unquote. The physicians considered her case one of disease rather than of crime. A month after the operation, quote, a thorough revolution had taken place in her mental faculties. Her change for the good is going to be just as strongly pronounced as was her bent for the bad, unquote. Pasadena, March 30, Mrs. June Thurner, number 315 West Avenue, 50, Los Angeles, who attained almost worldwide fame 2 years ago when she underwent an operation for kleptomania at the American Hospital in Berkeley at the hands of Dr. Herbert Rowell, who removed a piece of skull as large as $1 from the top of her head on the right side, was arrested at her home yesterday morning at the instigation of Detective Charles Betts, charged with the theft of diamonds and rings valued at $581 from 3 Pasadena jewelry stores. Think about that. Diamonds and rings worth only $580.
Back then was probably a lot of them. So I think the next paragraph kind of gives it a little bit more. So let's finish that one up.
Yes. I just was, the 580 was just
absolutely
in today's world, you go. Anyway, instead of using the knife and drugs, chiropractors substitute hand adjustment of the displaced portion of the neuroskeleton, which presses upon or against some portion of the nervous system, which injures instead of protecting. The filamentous bands of nervous tissue that connect the parts of the nervous system with each other and transmit impulses to the various organs of the body. The principles which form chiropractic science have always existed and are now being revealed to the world by D.D. Palmer through the chiropractor's adjuster. This revelation of the science, art, philosophy was given by one who tells me that he is indebted to those who are farther advanced in the knowledge of physical and spiritual phenomena than he is. Through and by these discoveries, chiropractors are able to relieve diseases which heretofore were pronounced by the medical profession as incurable. Thousands of cases of this kind can be cited. I created a science out of the principles revealed to me and named it chiropractic. I correlated the art of adjusting displaced vertebrae together with the philosophy of the science and art. That these revelations were not made along the lines of medical and theological investigations is not strange when we consider that very few such great discoveries have been made by those who were expecting results in certain smoothly worn grooves of stereotyped education. It is not surprising that those who have given to the world its greatest and grandest thoughts have been more or less connected with those who had passed into the spiritual existence.
Okay, so he's saying there's a connection to the spiritual realm, but is he saying that what's that? What do you think he's saying in that last sentence? Because he's going through a lot of information beforehand, and it's kind of what we talk about now. What does he mean in that last sentence? I'm
Well, he's talking about still, isn't he?
Pardon?
It's partly talking about where he got it.
Well, he got it from that way, but he's also saying we're really all connected.
Yes.
I think, right? We all have that spiritual
It's
intuition.
available
Which
to
we're all
everybody,
connected
yes.
to God, even if you don't believe in it, right? Yeah. Connected to those who had passed into this spiritual existence.
So this is part of his history with spiritualism as well. And spiritualism has more to do with the energy flow, basically like universal intelligence, innate intelligence, than like spiritualism that I thought as a student, even up to even 5 years ago, where you go and pray. Spiritualism was like part of a religion. It really has a lot to do with the energy flow in the cosmos, universal intelligence, innate intelligence. There's intelligence everywhere. It transfers.
I think that's where we're all one. We're all connected. You know, where some of that common vocabulary now comes
Yes.
from spiritualism back then. Am I correct? I think.
Spiritualism and Masonic as well.
Okay. All right.
Our world has moved away from that. Our Western society has moved towards, you know, a harder, prove it to me, you know, and spiritualism is more ephemeral, if you will. That there's, you know, it's not just because you can't prove it scientifically doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Intellect, you know, spiritual and intellectual are two completely different things. They don't need to agree with each other.
Yeah.
In my world.
You know, Alan, I like that you say that. And the latter part of my schooling was like that. I would say that from the 50s up until the last couple of decades, it was like that. It was scientific. I would say this because I remember Santo and even Sigafus talking about the experiments out in California at Berkeley where the atoms talk to each other, but they were spinning at these speeds and they were miles apart. How could they do that? It was an intelligence. There was an intelligence communication that was occurring. And there's more and more of that that's occurring now in the current research, especially with space and then even, I'm going to say the C word, coronavirus. We know that there's this connection, even not physically being exposed to it, boom, it can show up invisibly. So I would say that it is shifting, it is changing.
And I think that, you know, there's the generation that, you know, rebelled against a lot of that. And now they're sort of an older generation when we go into those things right now. But, you know, right now people are hungry for the spiritual food. You know, that's what Pasquale would say, that food. And people really want it. And I think a lot of these, you know, I see it from chiropractic students all the time, especially if they've gone through schools that haven't really given them much. They feel there's something more. What am I missing? And that's up to all of us, or every chiropractor, is to help fill in those gaps for the ones coming behind us, to bring them up.
Science, you know, what science does is continue to validate things that we've been saying for over 100 years.
Yeah.
That science goes deeper and deeper into smaller and smaller and bigger, but the organization throughout is present, and it's not explainable to science. They just keep finding more things. The further they go, the more organized that it is. I mean, and you know, I just started reading Simon's latest, The Triune, and I started reading, you know, and the first part of it is the Triune itself, which I've read several times by Reggie. And one of the first thing he talks about in the universal is, let's take it to the smallest thing. And at that point, all they talked about was, even when he wrote that, the smallest thing in an atom was the electronic parts of it, but they were organized. They maintained themselves, and that's the intelligence. And now we've split that atom, and we found the God particle, the so-called Higgs boson particle, which shows us that matter and force transmit back and forth between each other. How does that happen without intelligence? Oh, wait, that's the triune.
Oh, and then Alan, there's dark matter.
Well,
That's
yeah,
invisible, that connects it all.
you know, but that's still, there's still organization there. That's the point.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's the intelligence. We can't explain what that intelligence is or where it comes from, but it's there. It's pervasive in all things and all people and all matter. and it maintains it in existence, hence our premise, universal intelligence.
And there are still mysteries. Every time they try and prove something, they come up with astronomically bigger questions. How in the world, right? I just read a research study where they were shooting out the electrons from an atom, from a hydrogen atom, shoot out the electron, and then the proton. And what they did, they thought they didn't know what would happen, and they created a mini black hole and sucked it all in. Like, oh my gosh, we just created a micro black hole. What do we do?
Try not to get sucked into it.
Swallow the Earth, like they thought the CERN collider was going to do. This is the thing, is we're not trying to explain how everything works, okay? But give reverence to this magic, amazing, connecting the things.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. Okay, Steve just had to leave. He just said good night. But, that is, it doesn't need to be explained in if and then. It doesn't have to be A and B equals C. We do have some mysteries and amazing things happening around us. Just being able to breathe, transfer that oxygen and, at the alveoli and, the blood, releasing its carbon dioxide and pulling in oxygen. Just amazing how that system works. Bob, it's good to see you up there, Senor Crystal. Here you
Unmute
go.
yourself, Bob.
I've been here the whole time. I've been listening in.
There you go.
If I could share a little something.
Please do.
Since you brought up Pasquale, I'll quote him for a second. He was very famous for saying, "If science can't explain it, that's too damn bad for science." And quite frankly, I mean, what other position can you possibly take? I have a little PowerPoint running in my office now. Says when God said, "Let there be light," it came flying in at 186,000 miles a second. And then it talks about how the light from the sun takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to get to us at 186,000 miles a second. And if that's not enough to wrap your head around, the furthest star that we can still see with the naked eye is over 16,000 light years away, which means at 186,000 miles a second, that light is traveling for over 16,000 years to get to us. I mean, like we could say we understand that, but we don't understand that. And that's how big, as big as it is out there, that's how big it is inside of us. Because God said, and we are the crowning creation. So, I mean, if all that amazingness out there is as amazing as it is, then of course, if we were somehow it would appear deep inside of us, we would see that tremendous, amazing thing that we could never explain and never completely come to terms with.
Thank you, Bob. Man, that was awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that. And, I feel like, I just feel like charged up after that. Amazing. I miss you. Yeah, we haven't heard from you in a little while.
Yeah, I've been here. I get home late. I'm eating dinner usually when you guys are all talking.
I get you. Well, thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. I remember Pasquale saying, well, too damn bad for science. Absolutely.
Right.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's pick up here next week at this spot. Okay, let's mark that. We're here at page 8, nearly at the bottom. Okay, so what do you feel like we got out of this? Where do you think we're going next? What's on your minds, everybody?
Right. What's on your mind, bro?
I thought we were doing that all night.
We are. I mean, we're doing that all night, but we've kind of come to the end where we are on this. Okay. I don't want to go any farther because I want to save it for next week. Okay.
It's too much already. Yeah.
We did a lot. It's a lot of spiritual food. Pasquale would have said you're going to get a bellyache. And that spiritual bellyache is no fun. I've been through some of that.
I love
But,
I love how Bob chimed in, because I could really feel and sense Pasquale through him. And I absolutely died at that saying, too bad for science. And I felt the energy, and I felt the energy that Dee Dee's saying. And we truly are blessed and honored. And when you have that affirmation and that power of what we do and what these men and women did before us, you can be joyful and serve and touch spirits and souls, like Dee Dee's talking, and just like the energy of Bob saying there about Pasquale. That was just beautiful. That's what I have at the end. When you truly own it, when you truly love it, it loves you back, and it provides.
absolutely. You know, I just had a friend of mine, Mark Johnson. You guys know him, Carol. He just came out to Florida to visit. And, you know, we were talking about Pasquale again. We talk about Pasquale a lot. And he said, you know, we're advancing spiritually. This is where he's talking with us. We're advancing through this. And, you know, as we study these things, that's advancing us. And even talking about it, it's helping us get through this material stuff and closer to the spiritual realm. And that's why we have to talk about it. We have to break it down, you know. And he even talked about, like, an artist having to get, my mother's an artist. She just had to paint. She just had to get it out of her. And he was talking about the same thing with us in chiropractic and speaking and talking about the philosophy, because it helps us grow. Once we get it out, we can move on to the next thing. We don't have to, you know, dwell on the same old stuff. We can keep advancing forward. And I think we advanced. This was a big advancement, and I appreciate it from all of you, because I got a lot out of it today. And I found one of my favorite Green Day shirts. Well, I had a good night, everybody. And we're going to, you know, end it here. And, you know, I love and appreciate you. This time just flew right by. And, you know, we're going to be the same time next week. I didn't get a post out this time. Maybe we can get some help posting. Carol said she'll help.
Yeah, I'll try.
Barry said he'll help. Alan can help. We just have to get it out there. I'm running out of
Just the core of
time
us, it's fine.
a team. We got a team. And now we have the translator. We're putting everything in Spanish.
Oh,
And then
good.
he sends them back to me, and then I post them already recorded. So we can go onto the YouTube channel. Everybody can get on there and post them, or you can post the audio from Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you go, whichever you like to do. It doesn't matter. Some people like to watch videos. Some people like to listen. So I post them on all those things after this. And, you know, we go from there. So if you guys just send it out there, and other people listening, send it to your friends, give it to groups, you know, philosophy groups, send it to them, and or create one and have it at your house, or listen to it in a group podcast. You can do that.
Mhm.
Oh, this weekend I'm going to be at Marty Rosen. He does his cranial seminar, his infant cranial, and I'm doing my certification in infant cranials. And we got him to come to Florida this time for 3 of them. And then next weekend I'm in Spartanburg for a native adjusting. So I'll have a few minutes to get some things done, but it might be a month from now.
1 minute.
That's it. 1 minute. That's all I got.
Okay.
Well, God bless you, everybody.
All right,
Thank
so
you all.
much.
Happy
you.
birthday,
Bob.
Carol.
Oh,
Enjoy
thank
your
you.
dinner too, Bob, okay?
Yeah,
Take
he's
care,
right here.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody.